Hello and welcome back to another episode of Advanced RC Adventures. A2RC here. This is a channel where we investigate, explore, build and explain, upgrade and advance Nitro RCs to another level. Come start a new adventure with me. An adventure we have today for sure. I don't know if I've shown you guys this before or not, but if I don't have an original box, I buy and make my own box setups. Just keep it simple, put on a piece of blue painter's tape, write a little bit of information on the outside so I can keep it organized. And it's just a good way to store them instead of having just loose engines around. But today we have the Thunder Tiger Pro15 BZ. Let's open this up and take a little look. Depending on what version you had and what year, they had two different air filter options. This kind of like, I'll call the L shape, or what I personally think it looks like is a golf club or a golf putter. Nice Thunder Tiger logo right there on the side. And then also this very vintage kind of ribbed paper filter. It says air cleaner there on the top. Part number AN0167 Thunder Tiger. And this is a very nostalgic way of filtering your air. I personally don't think they do a very good job, but it's definitely something fun to keep in the collection. So as normal, we have our engine and our bubble wrap. This is a brand new engine. It's been in long-term storage. It's been in long-term storage for a pretty long time now. I really enjoy the engine portion of the hobby, as you can probably understand, notice, tell, and I'm sure so many love it too. Collecting, building, rebuilding, keeping new from a vintage kind of point of view, ready to be put onto a build at some point in the future. Oh, we still have our desiccant bag here. Let's take that out. It's always great to try to keep a desiccant bag of some form, whether it's new or used. All of these are brand new that I put inside of these engines and seal them, but to help keep the moisture out of the engine for long-term storage. So this is the Thunder Tiger Pro series. They actually dubbed them the Magnum series. This is the 15 version. They made a Pro 12 version also that was actually marketed directly for the RC10 GT. Made in Taiwan, released in the mid 1990s, 95, 6, 7, and 8 kind of time frame. All alloy block. Nice rotary carb we'll take a look at. The head is relatively interesting too. See that shine cut portion? That's actually really smart. As you insert your glow driver, sometimes it can scratch the head up. So this is actually a polished portion of the head that when you stick your glow driver down inside, it won't nick up that black portion. So like all of our engine reviews, we're going to go ahead and take off the carb, go through the back plate, look at all the internals. So come on, take the adventure with me. This uses a standard 6mm pinch bolt for the carburetor. A beautiful all brass construction inlet nipple and high speed needle. This has one of those catch prongs or detents. So as you rotate the needle, you actually can feel it moving and gives you a bit of an idea on how far you turn. But it does have that standard kind of flathead type of slot there on the top of the high-speed needle to give you a visual indicator as well. This uses a pretty standard butyl O-ring on the bottom. Let's go ahead and measure that inner bore and see what we've got. So this is very large. This is a 6mm bore. You probably would expect something around 5 to 6, so that's in that higher range of size for the engine, but that definitely is a part of why I think they consider it Pro. This is a 2-needle carb. Here is the low-speed needle there on the spray bar side. And it's just a nice looking rotary carb for this 15 Pro. We have our flywheel nut here. We'll take off. We have our prop drive washer. This is a standard crank version. It has the 2 flat styles for certain types of flywheels, but you can also use a collet style flywheel at the same time. Let's go ahead and take off this back plate. Bump version engine, which I personally try to look for all of the time. I really enjoy having that lower center of gravity option for these engines on any type of car, and using the bump start is a great way to start any engine. Easier to prime, easier to start. So let's go ahead and take this back plate off. Let's measure one of these backplate bolts real quick. This is an M2.5, and it looks like it's going to be 7 millimeter long. So that's relatively standard, and it uses 2 millimeter hex there on the top. There's a flat or a cutout portion of the backplate, so it's a semi-interference engine. It uses the very typical for this era, the kind of paper gasket for the backplate. Notice this engine has never been used. There's no rub marks at all on the backplate here. It says made in Taiwan, number 5. That number 5 is more than likely a casting number, identification number for the casting. And there's no indication for top except for that milled or cast in flat there for the semi-interference piston. Come on over to the back, take a look at our internals. It's looking good from here. Let's pop off this head. Before we talk about this head just for a second, I want to pick up the back plate again. So Thunder Tiger actually had pull start versions of these engines and many others as well. And effectively, if this was a pull start version, this would be a Pro15 BZ X Magnum. And the X designates that pull start. So that's very much the same as what OS does for their pull start versions, is they designate them with that X. So let's go ahead and take a look at this head. The compression bowl is integrated into the head. This is a CNC, very lightweight aluminum head, all black anodized. And I love having silver and black style heads. They go with all different build colors, so you can't go wrong with black and silver for sure. These take standard plugs, and these are bi-directional heads. That means that air can flow through one side and out the other, but it can't flow through the other ways. But there's multiple ribs here for cooling and help to keep the engine running healthy. Pop off our head shim here. Let's give this a little measure. This is a 0.3 head shim, which is a pretty standard aluminum head shim size for a 15 version engine. Rotate our piston a little bit so our sleeve can come right out. You're going to see this is a nice looking engine and sleeve set. Take out the piston here. First thing you notice, this is a floating style piston. Very, very similar to the OS versions of the CV. We've got that Delrin or plastic puck on either side, completely floating. And what that does is as the piston moves up and down inside of the cylinder, it helps to keep the piston itself off the cylinder walls and won't drag or cut the sleeve itself. This is a cast piston that's been later machined. Flat top piston style, no oil groove. The skirt itself goes all the way around, and you notice that little hole. This particular engine, again, is very similar to two of the engine styles that we've looked in the past. This is our boost port hole. We did a full explanation on the 15 FE engine for the hidden boost port. We reviewed it too as well for the OSCV style engines. So if you're curious to learn more about that hidden boost port, feel free to check out those other videos. This uses a billet connecting rod with brass bushings down inside. Our oil hole is down there on the very bottom. Notice it doesn't have any center groove on either side. It has that oil hole there on the bottom. Nice looking, decent piston. See if we can pop out our crank here. Again, as I mentioned, this is a standard crank. And I don't know about you, but this looks extremely similar to the 12V and the 15 FE cranks. They use all the same or similar style bearings for them. This is a 9mm ID bearing. But what is kind of nice is that the balance lobe here on the crankshaft is cut out to keep it relatively lightweight. But other than that, it's very kind of basic. Decent open window. This is not drilled and filled, and you wouldn't expect that on this style engine. I use the word drilled slightly down past the window to give it a little bit more lightweight. Let's go ahead and measure that center induction bore. So this, we'll call it 6.6 millimeter. And I would say that's kind of a typical size for these style and these age engines. So we've got a pretty decent looking crank right there. Let's keep on moving. Let's go back to the block. This is a pretty beautiful looking block. We've got the Thunder Tiger logo, Pro, nice shine cut there. We've got the 15 embossed there on the side. If you had a 12 Pro, then that would say 12. Nice big opening down inside. You won't be able to see it very well, but we have cuts or milling, porting for the transfer port, as well as for that side exhaust, but there's no boost port itself. These use standard chrome steel bearings, front and rear, and they're still very smooth and glassy, and they should be, as they are brand new. So let's travel back to our sleeve here. Let's take a look at our exhaust port here first. Again, very similar to the OSCV style types of engine. Rectangular in shape, no dog ears, just a simple exit for the exhaust. Take a look at our transfer ports. The transfer ports themselves are very big. These are rectangular in shape and they go vertically. Nothing fancy about it, just one big giant open window. And then we have our boost port feature. This is the hidden boost port. There is push through the bottom, goes through that little hole in the piston into this window, and then as this piston moves down and opens up a bevel inside of there, in between the piston and the sleeve, and it pushes all that mixed fuel and air into the combustion chamber. But something you don't see a whole lot, especially for Thunder Tigers at that time, is this is ABC construction, and this is what they really marketed these Magnum engines to have, and why they called them a Pro version, even though it was more of a ready-to-run style construction with a hidden boost port and these large transfer ports. We have aluminum piston, we have brass sleeve, and chrome lining for durability. So a nice little package for this vintage Pro15 from the Thunder Tiger Corporation. You definitely can't go wrong with a brand new build or a vintage build if you wanted to run one of these Pro style Magnum engines. I appreciate you all being here, and if you enjoy these engine overviews, especially some of the long discontinued vintage flavor, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And if you like 10 scale, nitro, and especially touring cars, then this is a place to be. So thanks for taking the adventure with me.